as far as what I'm looking forward to, I don't think the Niners are going to reveal anything. They're banged up. I don't expect starters to play, especially for a team that played deep into the year, playing in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I really want to see Ricky Pearsall in game action, but because of that shoulder injury, not sure we're going to see him in game action. So what I want to look out for, what's the offensive line rotation? How does Dominick Puni look? How does Malik Mustapha look? What do we see from Robert Beal? What do we see from Ronnie Bell? Because he might be relied upon. I want to see what the new kickoff looks like, because obviously that's an added wrinkle. Dee Winters and Jalen Graham. I am very excited to see them in action because I think they're going to get an extended look. And I think that Dee Winters has an opportunity to maybe unseat Devondre Campbell as one of this team's starting linebackers potentially. And then the backup quarterback situation is really hairy. If Brock Purdy were to go down, I just don't have a lot of confidence long-term in Brandon Allen or Josh Dobbs. And of note, the Niners released their first depth chart this week going into preseason game number 1, and they don't have a bona fide backup quarterback set. They have both Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs listed as QB2. So that is an ongoing battle. And then elsewhere, I'm very excited to see a player like Cody Schrader get extended looks because I think this dude was just made to be a football player. I hope that we get an extended look at Jordan Mason. And with that, I want to see him continue to run with physicality, run with power. But he said, I invested in a jugs machine. I was looking at Christian McCaffrey and I said, if he's doing that, I got to get better at catching the football. I want to see Kyle Shanahan call passing plays for Jordan Mason. And of course, all these rookies and young players, I think it's going to be important to see them. The cornerback spot is very deep as far as depth. What does Isaac Yiadom look like if he can play because he's been injured? Rock Ya-Sin, Samuel Womack's on the roster bubble, Darrell Luter Jr. on the roster bubble, Jair Brown, will he play? He's going into a big year too. I think that he can be a breakout candidate. So I'm looking at kind of all of those areas and more going into this preseason game.
I'm looking for the runners and the linebackers. To me, I'm looking for, what does Cody Schrader look like? A little bit even on the back end, like Breida and Keyshawn Vaughn. Eager to see what those guys look like, but definitely Cody Schrader, because Schrader has looked really good in practice, and there's been a lot of players from Juice to Kittle to others who have had good things to say about Cody. And
backup tight end is another position, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mason Pline has looked fantastic in this camp. And I expect Pline to make this team. I know that's crazy because he's an undrafted free agent, but the rest of that group outside of Kittle doesn't look all that special. And then I'm looking for the linebackers, Jalen Graham, Dee Winters, even Tatum Bethune, Curtis Robinson. To me, the last 3 or 4 days, the thing that has really stood out is that the Niners' depth at linebacker between Graham, Winters, Bethune, Ezekiel Turner, Curtis Robinson, those guys can all play. Curtis Robinson really looks good. I mean, he is absolutely flying all over the place.
Flanagan Fowles as well.
Flanagan Fowles, another guy. These guys, their depth at linebacker is really impressive. And then I would say the other thing that stands out about the Niners is that this secondary is just absolutely primed for a big year. There's the entire secondary is in the prime of their career. And, you got good depth now, both at safety and at corner. I like the addition of Tracy Walker. I think that helps a little bit. But Mustafa's been amazing. Renardo Green has been amazing. These two guys look really, really good. So I'm eager to see the young DBs, the young linebackers, the young running backs, and maybe even a little bit of Shaquille Brown and Evan Anderson, the two behemoth interior defensive tackles. I'd like to see what those guys do. All right.
What can we expect from Tanner Mordecai? I do want to ask you about
Tanner Mordecai to, okay, so I asked Brian Greasy about Tanner Mordecai. I said, is there any chance that Mordecai beats these guys out? And he's like, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. In other words, we're not gambling on some undrafted rookie free agent quarterback as our number one backup to Brock Purdy in a year where we're trying to win the Super Bowl. But guess what? And I know that when the games start, what happens on the field takes precedent. And if Tanner Mordecai is more successful at moving the 49ers offense up and down the field in the preseason, Tanner Mordecai will back up Brock Purdy, not Allen, not Dobbs. So I hear what he's saying, and I understand what he's saying. But when I asked Brock the other day about Mordecai, and he gave me this kind of Cheshire cat grin and was like, "Man, Tanner can rip it." And you could kind of tell. And I'm out here watching these practices. Tanner Mordecai looks very, very similar to what Brock Purdy looked like 2 years ago. As far as he masters every drill, he's mediocre size, mediocre arm strength, but you just kind of look at every drill and you're like, hey, the ball came out on time and hit the guy right between the numbers. He had a couple overthrows this week, but he probably has the best arm strength of any of the Niner quarterbacks. And the guy runs 4.45 and is, Luke Fickell told Brian Griese, this guy's a leader. This guy broke his hand in 5 weeks later, played in the bowl game against LSU and threw for 378 and 3 touchdowns and no picks. So yeah. I'll say it right now. I mean, I'll put what I see, my eyes over Dobbs and Allen's resume. I think Mordecai looks better than Dobbs, better than Allen, and I think he's going to beat them out. I'm really excited to see what he can do. And yeah, I hope that Kyle calls from like RPO runs for him to see what type of athleticism and dynamic running ability he might be able to bring to this offense too. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 4.45 speed. That's really something. One more on the Eagles. I know I ask you some Eagle questions and people start pushing back on you. I go, why is this Eagle talk? Chase covers the Eagles as well. So, their quarterback situation behind Jalen. I know they brought in Kenny Pickett. I'm a big, big fan of Tanner McKee. I love Tanner McKee. He's a big 6'6" kid who throws rockets and is really smart and is underrated. He's now had some time to learn that offense. How is any word on McKee versus Pickett versus Greer? How's that shaking out in Philly? Yeah, Will Greer's definitely not going to make the team. He's barely getting any reps. I actually think Tanner McKee can upset Kenny Pickett to be the team's backup quarterback behind Jalen Hurts. Tanner McKee played in a dog shit offense at Stanford under David Shaw. And it's really hard to evaluate a quarterback when he's playing in such a vanilla, lackluster, mundane scheme. In the preseason last year, Tanner McKee has good size, a really good arm, and he was able to throw with touch timing and accuracy out to the sideline, out to the boundary, out to the numbers. And I'm very impressed with him. And I think he has underrated mobility. For Kenny Pickett, he's smaller, small hands, weaker arm, career 13 touchdowns to 13 picks. I know that he was kind of playing in a bad offensive system with an offensive coordinator who shouldn't be an OC in this league in Matt Canada before he was let go. So it's hard to gauge him. But Tanner McKee, I think, has had a better training camp than Kenny Pickett, and I think that he could be QB2 behind Jalen Hurts week 1 against the Packers in Brazil. Am I seeing gear? Am I seeing Niner gear or garb there? What do we got there? 49er Report? 49ers Report polo. Does that say your name on there? No, by Chat Sports. Oh, Chat Sports. Okay. Yeah, 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Dude, that's a good-looking polo.